please introduce yourself?
My name is Cindy Guzman. I am currently a social work student at Western Illinois University on the Macomb campus.
Tell me a little bit about your homeless journey.
So growing up, I had my mom and dad. At the age of 8, my father was murdered. And then later on, my mom had a drug addiction. Eventually, we ended up moving to Guatemala, my mother and I ended up moving back to the U.S. However, my mother stayed in Guatemala, so I lived with my aunt and uncle for about 10 years. They became my legal guardians. And at the age of 18, 1 week after my birthday, we got into an argument and they told me to leave, and so I did.
Once you were kicked out of your home, tell me some of the hurdles you faced and how you ended up where you ended up.
So the first thing that happened was I had called my friend to pick me up. We went straight to the bank and pulled all of my money out of my bank account. I had a part-time job throughout high school. I was kicked out the summer before my senior year of high school. I left home with $300 to my name, 2 duffel bags, and my teddy bear. So I quickly learned that $300 was not going to get me through even a month's worth of food, because I was bouncing around between friends' homes, some family friends' homes. I eventually ended up trying to figure out where I could live that was still in district. I needed for someone to sign off that I was going to, in fact, be living with them for the school year for my residence to get approved. I was in high school band, and I had told one of the band parents what happened, that I got kicked out. They had asked because they saw that I was gloomy, so they had asked, and another band parent overheard what was happening and just asked, like, hey, what's going on? And the parent said, oh, Cindy here has no home. She left home. She has no place. And the Brostoffs are their names. And Miss Brostoff just said, I have a room. And that was it. Like, she just took me in. Didn't even consult her husband, was just ready to take me in. So I have been living with them ever since. I stay with them when I'm on school breaks and things like that and celebrate holidays with them.
What issues did you have regarding your enrollment?
In terms of my enrollment for my senior year of high school, my aunt actually came to the high school and tried to unenroll me from high school. So because the liaison at my high school saw that I was 18, she decided to just break ties between my aunt and I. So legally, my aunt wouldn't be able to unenroll me, so all of my paperwork could still stay at that school. However, I was told that I needed to have a home residence in order to be eligible to enroll into that school, and it ended up being the case where this form needed to get signed before I could even go and attend classes, and the superintendent of my district had to sign off on it before I could go to class. So I ended up missing half of the first day of high school as a result of that. And what was really frustrating is that the Brostoffs, the family that I live with, they knew the superintendent super well. They had dinners and went to parties with the superintendent, and Miss Brostoff was so adamant about trying to get me to make sure I have, the typical first day of school, that she was willing and called people to ask, like, can I just take this form and walk over to the superintendent and get it signed? And they said, no, like, there's a whole process that has to be done. So I didn't end up having my whole first day of high school be a full day of high school because I needed that form signed, or so I was told.
You've been doing an internship working with the McKinney-Vento and the homeless youth program in West Central Illinois. Now that you know the law better, are there any particular frustrations that you have knowing the law now?
Yeah, given all of that information that I have now, I do find it frustrating that it seems that there isn't the same information for every liaison, just because I learned that there shouldn't be any barriers in enrolling the student if they don't have, immunization forms, things like that. That shouldn't be a problem for getting them enrolled and allowing for them to sit in class. And that obviously happened to me. Like, I wasn't able to sit in class on that first day of school for half the day because I needed this form, and that form was a barrier, and it simply shouldn't have been a barrier for me.
Let's stop for a moment and talk about what should have happened. Cindy should have been enrolled immediately, even without all proper documentation. This was her school of origin, so even if she had moved outside the school district boundaries, she should have been able to attend. She should not have had to produce a residency document to enroll and begin classes. She did not have to become legally emancipated, although in her case it did make things easier. Even if she'd been younger than 18, she should have been able to enroll as an unaccompanied youth. These barriers that were placed in front of Cindy made attending school more difficult and certainly increased her stress levels.
Besides the Brossoffs, the family that took you in, tell me about some people or some agencies or groups that were particularly helpful to you.
The social worker at my school, I didn't even know we had social workers at my school, so I ended up talking to him. His name was Andres Acosta, and he was a wonderful man who helped me just realize the things that I have. For example, there was one time I was sitting in there talking to him, adamant that I had done all of these things for myself, and he just kind of bluntly told me, like, you didn't do any of that by yourself, and to some people that might be a downer for them, but it just helped me realize that's true. I didn't do any of those things by myself. I always had a teacher there to help me if I needed help. There were social workers there if I needed to figure out resources. I had counselors if I needed to talk about what I was experiencing. And the whole time I was so absorbed in my own situation and thinking that I was here alone, and the fact of the matter was that I wasn't. I had all of the support, especially in school. School is always my safe haven, and so there was always someone that I could go to no matter the need, whether it be, hey, I need an extra pair of socks. There were friends who would have an extra pair of socks for when I had badminton practice and things like that. Or I needed a swim cap, or I needed shoes for the musical, for choir. Then I could go to the social worker and ask, and he would help me pay for those things that I could use for school.
What advice would you give other students in that situation that you were in? As you just said, you were not an island. There were people surrounding you that were willing to help, but they couldn't help if they didn't know. So what would you say to someone in that situation that's hesitant about asking for help?
My first thought to that question is just letting people know, if you are concerned that someone's going to think of you differently or view you differently, don't even be worried about that. All of the staff and faculty, their job is to help you, whether that be academically, emotionally, or with resources. That's their job. That's what they're getting paid for. That's what they're meant to do. That's what they went to school to do. And they wouldn't be there unless that's genuinely what they wanted to do. The second thing is that there are so many people out there who seem to think that their problem is unique, or whatever they're facing is unique, and it's just not. We all are facing all these various struggles, and we're all in it together. And for us to have this idea that, like, I need to figure it out on my own is part of the problem. You don't need to figure it out on your own. There are so many other people out there who are going through the same experience. And while that might feel like you're not having a unique experience, it's more like, thank goodness you're not having this unique experience, because we know how to go about those experiences. There are staff and faculty members who are there to help you get through this experience and to help you have a better experience.
So What do you know now that you wish you'd know then? If you could talk to your senior in high school self as a senior in college, what do you wish that senior in high school had known?
I grew up in a household where it was frowned upon to use any government programs, any federal programs, anything like that, because it was viewed as something negative. Like if you needed someone else's help, then it meant that you weren't doing well enough for yourself, that you weren't trying, and that just wasn't true. I mean, I was part of 13 organizations. I was part of 3 honor societies. I was part of 2 varsity teams in during the school year, and in my off season I was in the musical. I was part of all of these things and I still managed to get a 4.2 GPA. So it's not like I wasn't trying. I just didn't have the time to work, right? And so even if I dropped all of those activities, realistically me working would drop my grades, and I knew that that would directly negatively impact my GPA, and that would impact what colleges I could go to, because I was able to see that regardless of whether or not my situation was what it was then, I had the ability to get an education and change the direction and the trajectory of my life. And in order to do that, I needed to go on SNAP, for example, for the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. Because I didn't have the money. I didn't have a job yet because I was a senior, and because I left home, I had to quit my job. And it's okay to need help. It's okay to use programs. The programs are there for you to use. They're meant for people in situations like these, and that was something that I really needed to learn. And the other thing is that it's not like I'm taking from this program and I'm never going to give back, because I am working now, right? I had the ability to get a job and I'm paying into that program again. And that's something that I wish I could have acknowledged when I was younger.
Hindsight is always 2020. If there would be something that you would do differently, if you could, is there anything you would do differently?
I would not be spiteful. I had, right now is my senior year of college, for example. I'm going to be graduating a full year early, which I was so determined to just do well. I was so determined to show my aunt, for example, who tried to unenroll me from high school, that I could do well. And not only could I do well, I would do significantly better than the rest of my peers. But I didn't need to do that. I could have taken time to breathe. I could have taken an extra year of school and I still would have accomplished the same things. I still would have been just as happy, if not more happy, because I would have had more time to make friends. I would have taken the time to enjoy where I'm at and enjoy the process, instead of longing to be somewhere else. For example, every time I have to do my own taxes or I have to look at insurances and figure out the difference between an HMO and a PPO, I'd get so frustrated, because it's like, I right now am only 21, and this is something I shouldn't have to worry about. I should still be on my parents' plan, on their insurance plans and stuff like that. But I just can't think that way, because while I think that I should be there, I'm not. And so I just have to take where I am and appreciate it.
Besides the registration issue that you had, was there anything specifically that the high school could have done differently to assist you more efficiently?
Personally, I feel like it would have been beneficial to have check-ins with the staff and faculty. It really was on a unless you ask for it basis. And the position that I was in, I didn't even know what to ask for, right? And so maybe just getting to sit down and have conversations with either the counselor or the social worker. I knew that that door was open, but I didn't know that I should have sat down and told them, this is what's happening, X, Y, and Z, and I don't know how to go about it. It just really felt like I was just kind of sitting in my room by myself going, I don't know what to do about this, instead of having a designated time to tell someone my concerns.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of your darkest times, darkest moments as you went through this journey?
In high school, there are certain things that happen in high school that I didn't realize other families didn't do. I was talking to my now roommate, and I was just explaining how, like, my things that would happen with my cousin, he would always do all of these things that were wild and ridiculous, and he'd get in trouble. And I would do things like forgetting that I needed to take out laundry and lay it out because it'd get wrinkled if you didn't lay it out. And I'd get grounded for that. And I was the type of kid who was a bookworm. So if you grounded me and I had to sit down and read a book all day at the kitchen table, I was fine with that. So instead, my family would take away things that they knew I valued, and I would have my homework taken away. I'd have my backpack taken away. In my district, we got iPads where all of our homework was on, so I would get grounded, and they would literally, my aunt and uncle would literally take my backpack and put it in their room at night so I couldn't work on my homework. My friend had a extra phone that she let me use, and I would take that and I would do my homework on it, and I would hide the phone so they wouldn't know that I was trying to do my homework. And to me, that's wild, right? Because that's what we're told to do. Our sole job as a student is to be studious. And that job was taken away from me. That work that I was supposed to get done was taken away from me. And it would get really rough. Like, it just felt like there was nothing that I could do to better my situation. Like, I knew when I got older, I would eventually leave my aunt and uncle, and I'd have to figure out where to go from there, right? And so I knew that I needed to get good grades in order to excel in life, in order to be eligible to go to a good college. And then they took away my homework, so I wasn't able to even help myself in the bare minimum way that I knew how. So that was really stressful. And there would literally be nights where I would just sit there and pray to some God that I would, if I could just not wake up the next morning, right? And so that's just something that I am saddened that I lived in a situation where I felt like that at some point in my life, because the idea that I wished I hadn't woken up in high school, then I would have missed all of the things I've experienced now. I would have missed all of the friends that I have. I would have missed this awesome, perfect circle of life internship that I have, where I'm able to learn more about kids in my situation, kids who are and were unaccompanied youth like I was. So it's something that is really upsetting and wild for me to think about, that there were many days in high school where I just really didn't want to exist. But I would just want to tell students in this position that they're going to be okay. They're gonna get through it. And even if they have to look to the next minute, not even to the next day, then look at that very next minute. Just get through the next minute, because those minutes add up, and then before you know it, you could be graduating from high school or graduating from college.
What are some practical suggestions that you can offer the McKinney-Vento student?
If possible, the first thing that I would recommend is getting either the original or a copy of your birth certificate. That is something you're going to need for everything. If you're out of home or unaccompanied and you don't already have a license, you're going to need at minimum your birth certificate and your social security card to have those things. It's also really important to know that if you need your state ID, homeless individuals, which you classify as, if you're McKinney-Vento eligible, then you can get your ID for free. I didn't know that. So that would have been something really useful because I could have used those $20 for something else. Just knowing that these legal documents are not free. All of them you have to pay for unless you have some sort of reason why you become eligible for it to get waived. Then understanding your rights of what you do and don't have to pay for is really important. Also acknowledging that, at least for me, I had to take time out of my school day to go get these things. Like my father had passed away, so I had an inheritance from him, but I had to go to the Social Security office, and government offices are only open at times that just happen to be during the school day. So I'd have to take time off of school in order to go get that resolved. So having that communication with social workers, with faculty and staff, and understanding, just helping them to help you. So, just asking them like, hey, this is something that I really need. Is there any way that we can go about this? I know that my social worker was able to get the permission to take me to go get my driver's test, for example, if need be, to take me to go wait in line with me at the Social Security office, if need be. So there are resources there. You just have to ask for them. Just tell them what's going on and ask for it.
Birth certificates in the state of Illinois are free for all McKinney-Vento eligible students and their families. McKinney-Vento and Title I funds can be used to pay for documentation, such as a birth certificate from another state that isn't free, and the necessary transportation to get any documents that the McKinney-Vento eligible student may need. Talk to your liaison, social worker, or counselor for help in getting what is needed.
Are there specific ways that you think of that might make it easier to ask for help or to advocate for yourself?
The best way, I think, would be scheduling a meeting, asking some faculty or staff, if that's the counselor, if that's the social worker, just asking, hey, can you pull me out of class? There's something I need to talk to you about. Writing them, a lot of them have little mailboxes that you can just write a little note to them and they'll check it. And as soon as they check it, if you ask them to pull you out of class, they'll pull you out of class. So that would be a really good way of going up. And, if you're not comfortable with that, then you can always write them an email asking if, hey, can I meet with you? I have some concerns. I have some questions.
If I was a high school student that had a question, or if I was a high school student that really wasn't sure what direction to take, what advice could you give me?
As a high school student, I think the first step I would recommend would be to go to your counselor or to your social worker and just tell them what's happened. Tell them what's going on and ask if you can brainstorm with them on things that you might need to be successful, whether that be in life or academically. So, if you want to go on to college, then asking what do I need to know about applying for college? There are things that you have to do, such as A, doing the basic application. B, you have to fill out the FAFSA form, and you might not know how to do that, but counselors do. That's part of their job, is helping you out with that. Just walk in and tell them what's going on. And even if you don't know what you need and you're not sure how to go about that, then just tell them what's happening and they'll work with you. And just ask them, this is what's happening. I don't know what to do. And what should I do? What do you think I should do? And from there, you guys can brainstorm on the resources that maybe you want or you think would be well fitted for you, or the ones that the counselor knows or the social worker knows.
So you're just about ready to graduate. Tell us what your next steps are and what's coming for your future.
At the close of my senior year, I am going to be going to get my master's in social work at UIC Jane Addams College of Social Work. There are only 30 applicants that get accepted per year, so I'm super excited about that. I also have a drive and want to fix policy or be a lawyer for victims of domestic violence. So I intend to go to law school after I get my master's.